What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to EP09. Alright, so I've got a couple of very interesting stories today, you guys, and I'm going to start this one off with Rubiel Mosquera. Now, this was actually information sent to me by a fan of the channel, so Manuel Moreno, thank you very much for sending me this information. Now, Rubiel recently did a pretty in-depth interview here on a guy's channel named MIGUEL NAVARRO, and I'll link that entire video in the description below for you guys. Be forewarned, the whole thing is in Spanish, and I had to watch all of it with Google Translate to try and get some of this down. But he wasn't just there by himself, he was also joined by his coach, FRANSICSO Jose ESPIN. Or actually, you know what, I should say his coach, at least in the coming future. He did announce that he'd be working with Fran ESPIN here, but apparently those plans need to be put on hold. And the reasons behind it are absolutely unbelievable, you guys. So look, let's talk about some of this. So I'm sure most people are aware by now, Rubiel Mosquera recently announced that he would be the latest competitor to go and join the crew out in Oxygen Gym. And you know, a lot of people originally thought that he was going out there because he had trouble just getting focused as a bodybuilder. After he did the EVLS Prague Pro, you know, it seemed like he was kind of relaxing and partying and things like that. But it would appear that he is not going of his own accord. Apparently, according to what we're hearing in this interview directly from Rubiel, it is his sponsor that is making him go and actually train at Oxygen Gym. And he actually also has to compete in the Dubai Pro because of contractual obligations. And all of this information apparently was all in Rubiel's contract. It really just came down to the fact that he did not read his contract, from what I can gather here, you guys. And this is a huge, huge mistake in bodybuilding. I mean, if you're going to go after something like this, you have to read the fine print in anything that you're going to sign your name to. And apparently in this case, that just didn't happen. And this is the fallout of those kinds of decisions that are being made without really understanding the implications of getting into an agreement like this. And apparently there's more to this sponsorship when it comes to some of the other shows that Rubiel was supposed to compete in. He was, of course, supposed to compete in the Arnold Classic Ohio and the New York Pro. But apparently, due to contractual obligations, the sponsor company was able to go to him and just tell him, look, you're not going to compete, you are going on tour. And that's why he actually went to the FIBO. And he actually says in this video that's one of the reasons why he really couldn't get focused enough to try and get ready for a bodybuilding competition. And again, like I said, that was the whole thing behind what everybody thought was the reason for him to go and live at the Oxygen Gym, because that's why people go there, to get rid of everything else in their lives except for eat, sleep, train, and I mean essentially just become the best that you can be when it comes to bodybuilding. And you know, something else that Rubiel actually mentioned in this entire interview, it was an hour-long interview, you guys, but one of the big highlights was actually some of the comments that he made about Chris Cormier. Now, everyone will probably remember that Chris Cormier seemed to work very closely with Rubiel Mosquera really ever since, you know, that EVLS Prague Pro. Well, Chris is also sponsored by that same company, and apparently Chris even being in the area of Rubiel when it comes to training and being at the show and advice and things like that, all of it apparently was due to obligation of the contract. And actually Rubiel makes comments about how Chris is a great trainer and, you know, he really knows things when it comes to posing, but when it comes to being a coach, it's just not an avenue that Rubiel would want to pursue with Chris. So apparently Chris has very limited involvement in Rubiel's preparation moving forward as well. And apparently, like I said, all of this is, again, out of contractual obligation. And it seems like this contract that Rubiel has with Yava Labs is absolutely in the favor of the supplement company. They can basically put him wherever they want, whenever they want. And you know, that's got to be a very precarious situation. But again, he did put himself essentially in this situation. Guys, read your contracts. If there's anybody out there who's an aspiring competitor or you're into business or whatever, do not, and I mean do not skip out on reading every single word of that contract. Get a lawyer if you don't understand it, honestly. But look, for the situation that he's in now, they do talk about how him and FRANSICSO do want to work together after they're completed their obligations when it comes to, you know, competing in the Dubai Pro and all of the promo and prep that he's going to have to do at the Oxygen Gym. I mean, just imagine, you guys, everything that he's going to have to do, say, be on camera, all of it out there at Oxygen Gym. is all going to be out of contractual obligation. It's actually incredible. So you know what? Keep that in mind as we continue to see Rubiel train at the Oxygen Gym and compete at the Dubai Pro. So look, for a young up-and-coming bodybuilder who could be one of the best in the world in professional bodybuilding, it would seem that the business of bodybuilding is just something that some of these guys aren't prepared for. So you guys leave me a comment down below about what you think about this whole situation. I mean, what do you think about the fact that Rubiel is being forced to, be in these different places when it comes to expos and gym tours and even where he can compete? What coaches he can even work with? It's absolutely incredible. You guys leave me a comment down below on what you think about all this. Alright, next up, I've got one more story for you guys today because otherwise this video is just going to be way too long. So look, I wanted to talk about this recent update that Matt Jansen posted on his Instagram. Now, this was after Nick Walker actually did the guest posing at the Pittsburgh Pro. And he had some choice words for the fans out there because, look, Nick got a lot of criticism after that Pittsburgh Pro guest posing. Really, we were expecting Nick to come in. I mean, really, the perception was that he would come in contest shape. And of course, that didn't happen. He's still a week out from the New York Pro. And a lot of people feel that Nick just didn't necessarily have translate over to the stage what he was showing on Instagram. So Matt wanted to give just a little bit of insight on exactly what happened here. So I'm going to read what Matt had to say. He says here, I want to put some things into perspective for those of you who might not understand bodybuilding at a high level. Nick and I prepare for competition. We do our process and everything is planned for the day that it actually matters. I remember the same thing happening in 2019 at weigh-ins for the USAs. Everyone freaked out saying he wasn't ready, not in shape, etc. 24 hours later, he shocked everyone. He came second at the show, but the praise about his peak was resounding. And look, I will note the same thing about the 2022 Olympia, you guys. You remember at 24 hours out when Nick posted a picture, he looked completely different on stage, but everybody had him counted out at that show. But look, anyway, he says here, this Saturday, we stayed on our plan. There was no peaking for the guest posing. He was up at 5:30, did cardio, traveled 5.5 hours to Pittsburgh. Saturday night, he stepped on stage with no training, no pump up, 5 meals, and 7 liters of water at 8 p.m. at night. I think it was actually more like 9 p.m. But anyway, a 270-pound body under the stress of travel, regardless of how stress-free it is, the body is under stress doing that, and it's going to hold water. He did this for you guys, the fans, to promote the IFBB and to support the organization we are thankful to be part of, not for validation of his current look. What I am most happy about, actually thrilled about, is that scene on slide 2, and I'll show you guys the slides here. Left is the Saturday before the 2022 Olympia where he placed 3rd, right is past Saturday at the guest posing. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier, you guys. The work he's done is undeniable. That being said, it's now Monday morning, and this is the current look. See you all Saturday. So look, there's a little bit to unpack here, you guys. The fact that Matt even made this post, I just want to start with this. Honestly, I don't think the guy should have said anything. I think he should have just left well enough alone, and I really think that they should have let the physique do the talking, just like they did in 2019. Well, Nick was relatively unknown in 2019, granted, but in 2022, they didn't come out and say, just wait till we see what on stage, you guys, we've been doing this, and no. There was none of that, right? And I understand that maybe Matt felt like some explanation was warranted, and look, it's absolutely valid everything that he said here. This would most definitely explain the heaviest criticism that Nick got during the guest posing, which was the midsection. Everybody was saying that Nick's stomach is just getting wider, the more size that he puts on. That was definitely his biggest criticism. But really, if Nick is going to come in undeniable at the New York Pro, which for the record, I think he is going to come in and win the show, they should have just left it at that, in my opinion. But look, the fact of the matter is, something was said here. And it does explain a lot, the fact that he had so much travel and 7 liters of water. I mean, guys, that's absolutely insane, right? It all makes sense as to how Nick actually showed up. And given all of that, I think Nick actually probably looked better than what most would have looked like, given the same circumstances of being on stage at that time of night with that amount of water, travel, all those things. So look, relatively speaking, Nick looked pretty good. And the fact of the matter is, this was not the show, but we hold Nick Walker to such a high standard, and the Pittsburgh Pro is held to such a high standard. I mean, even when I was doing my live stream, thank you everybody who tuned into the live stream, by the way, I was even making mistakes of saying, look, we're talking about the prejudging here. I said it a number of times. It was just a guest posing, right? But look, again, you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. I mean, the court of public opinion, I'll put up the results from the poll on my channel actually that I did here on who you guys thought won, quote unquote, the Pittsburgh Pro, which is a further testament on how seriously everybody takes this show, right? Going into it, the fact of the matter is that Nick Walker should have had the percentage that Andrew Jack had, because that's where everybody had Nick Walker going into it. But look, let me know, do you think that Nick left the door open just a little bit by really not showing up in undeniable shape when it comes to being, you know, a week out from the New York Pro? Is it understandable now that you've seen the explanation from Matt Jansen? And do you still think that Nick Walker will be the 2024 New York Pro champion? You guys let me know below. Anyway, that's it for me in this video, you guys. Thank you for tuning in to EP09. Be sure to like and subscribe.